Hello and welcome to Module 4. So we are in the second half of the semester and hopefully you are not panicking but instead are getting excited as we're getting closer to the end of our 10 weeks together. So this module is going to probably be the most practical of all of the modules that we do because this really is about what do we need to do in the classroom in order to design effective lessons, to assess our lessons. And so that really is what this entire module is going to focus on, and the two assignments that you have in this module are going to help you either refine or, if you haven't had to do them before, learn how to design appropriate lessons and assessments. So when you go into this module, you're going to find the assignments that you have. The readings are kind of spread out over your textbook, and there are also some other online resources for you. You'll see that there's 3 observation journals for you to complete in this module, which means there's only one left in Module 5. And remember, just kind of keep up with these as you go. Each one of them should be focusing on something different, and so I really have enjoyed reading what you've gotten to see. So I do think that it is such a valuable experience to see how teachers are designing instruction, how they're differentiating their instruction, how they have their classrooms set up, and some of you have even had the opportunity to be in different classrooms, so you've had that chance to kind of compare and contrast. But the whole purpose of this is for you to start figuring out what kinds of things do you think are going to work for you, and sometimes you learn what not to do, and that's just as valuable a lesson. So again, keep up with your journals as you go. There is one discussion board posting for you to do, so just make sure that it's done by the end of Module 4. But the 2 main things that you're doing in Module 4 are going to be a lesson plan and an assessment. So in this folder, that's where you're going to find the PowerPoints for these chapters, as well as some other online resources for you. Remember, I'm not expecting you to read everything word for word, but I do hope that, especially with the online resources, that you're bookmarking them so that you can go back to them when you do have time. But the lesson plan and the assessment assignment are the 2 things I want to talk about quickly, just to make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you're going to be doing. So when you look at the lesson plan assignment, you're going to find that I haven't given you a template because what I have found in about 20 years of being in education is that there's all different types of lesson plan templates that are out there. And so you may either want to design one of your own, you may have one that you've been using before, or you may want to spend some time kind of figuring out what kinds of templates are out there. But basically, you're going to be creating a lesson plan. What I would suggest is you create the lesson plan based on the age group that you think that you might want to teach, because what's the point of designing something if you're not actually going to use it? So most people who are taking this class are looking at a K through 12th grade classroom. And so, as you know, in the state of Virginia, anywhere from kindergarten to 12th grade uses the SOLs. So here's the link that's going to take you to the SOLs, and you can use any subject that you want. So again, I've given you some templates and lesson ideas, but you can absolutely look for your own. You can develop your own, but whatever lesson plan you turn in is going to need to have all of this information in it. So teacher's name, that would be you. The grade level, the subject, content area, so math, social studies, English, health and PE, you name it, art, music, the number of students that you would be working with, how long the lesson's going to take, materials needed, and be extremely specific. One of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given is that you want to create a lesson plan so that any person, even someone who has never worked with children before, could come in and do your lesson exactly the way that you were planning on doing it. So that means even in your materials, you need to be extremely specific. If you say glue, What kind of glue is it? Is it Elmer's glue? Is it rubber cement? Is it the glue sticks? Because if someone else were coming in your classroom, you want them to be able to have everything ready, because we all know what happens when we have to leave children to go get something. We've normally lost their attention, and it's going to take a little while to get it back. So just be specific with everything that you put in here. The lesson objective, let me tell you the easiest way to write an objective. It is to take the student's will, and then you insert the standard, and then you say when they do whatever. So for instance, it would look like this, and I'll do it in highlighting so that you can see it. The students will, I'll go back and highlight it. And then you insert the standard word for word. So here's where you have to have your standard of learning. So you just are going to copy and paste it here. When they do whatever activity you are going to have them do. And that's how you write an objective, because everything is here and it's measurable. So this is the formula for writing an objective. The students will standard when they do whatever it is that you're planning on having them do. So a lot of people actually put the standard before the objective. And again, as long as everything is in its place and is completely filled in, it doesn't matter to me what order you have it in. Most of the time, everything up to the standard here is part of your introduction to the lesson. Everything here up to the independent practice and assessment is going to be kind of as you're doing the lesson, and then towards the end you're going to be talking about why you're doing it. So anyways, the standard of learning, again, please don't just say K4B, because there may be a K4B in English and in math and in social studies. So you need to give all of the identifying information. So make sure you tell us what subject matter it is. If you're doing, again, kindergarten or whatever, it's going to have a letter or a number. Just give everything exactly the way that it's written in the SOLs. Introduction to the lesson. This is where we're going to start getting into actually teaching the lesson. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to get the children excited about doing the lesson. And I say children, but if you're doing it with 12th graders, then it's still going to be students. But you have to get them excited about it. So whether or not you're going to show a quick little video clip, you're going to play a game, you're going to read a book, but be very specific about what it is that you're going to be doing that's going to get them excited about it, but make sure that it relates to your standard and what it is that you're getting ready to do. Instructions. So here's where you're going to be going step by step. What exactly are you going to be doing in order to teach children this particular standard? Guided practice. How are you going to help them along? What are you going to be doing? Are they going to be working alone? Is it a small group, whole class? What are the children, the students, going to be doing independently to practice? I will tell you one of the things that, and it's just my personal pet peeve, is I don't like to see worksheets and I don't like to see flashcards. And the reason is because that's rote memorization. As opposed to that higher level thinking that we want. So get creative. Look at those Bloom's taxonomy verbs and look at the higher level of thinking where they're creating something. They're having to discuss something. So definitely make sure that you are trying to look at higher level thinking as opposed to you just having them do something quick. And don't always think it has to be an art project either. There's lots of different things that you can do to help enforce whatever it is that you want them to learn. And then we get down to assessment. So how are you going to assess them? We're going to talk a little bit about this with the assessment piece, but remember, assessment doesn't have to just be a test or a quiz. It can be observation. It could be asking high-level, open-ended questions. So be intentional about what you're assessing, because you're not assessing whether they had fun. You're assessing whether or not they learned what you wanted them to learn. Closing, how are you going to close the lesson? Which means somehow you've got to review whatever it is that you wanted them to learn. And then finally, why is this concept important? Why are you teaching this? It can't just be because it looked like a fun activity on Pinterest. So there needs to actually be some meat here, probably something from one of your resources that says why it's important for students to learn this particular information. So again, make this practical. Make it something that you think you're actually going to do. But remember, you do have to create it. It can't be something that you found somewhere. So that's the lesson plan assignment. And then the assessment is going to go along with this because you can either use what you just did or you can create something different. But again, assessment doesn't have to be a test. But we do have to assess what children are learning, because how are we going to know if we taught them effectively? Because we want this instruction to be something that they're going to remember and they're going to build on. So there are 4 parts to this assignment, but please don't freak out because none of them are going to be extremely difficult. The first thing is just an overview of assessment. So make sure that you kind of give me a summary about these main types, these main categories of assessments: formal, informal, formative, summative, traditional, alternative. And there's lots of resources on Blackboard for you, but this is also a good opportunity for you to get into some of the research about assessment. And for each one, make sure you give me at least one example so that I know that you have a really good idea of the different types of assessments. Then the second part is where you are actually going to be kind of giving me the background of what you're going to be assessing. So again, you can certainly use the lesson plan assignment. And if you do that, then you're just basically going to be cutting and pasting into this particular content. But if you are doing something different, then I need to have the context of what it is that you're going to be doing so I know how your assessment lines up. Here's where we get down to your assessment. So only one assessment, although we do know that you'll be using probably different types of assessments as you go throughout it. But I really am only looking for one good, strong assessment that's going to tie to what you just had up here in the unit overview. Remember, the assessment always has to tie into your standard. I just can't stress that enough. I think too many times teachers are concerned with assessing, well, they had fun doing it. That's fantastic, but that's not what you are assessing. You have to find out, did they learn what you wanted them to learn? So here's the assessment piece here. Remember, you have to design it. It cannot be something that you took from someplace else. And then finally, tell me why you actually designed that assessment. What type you did, why did you choose this, when are they going to complete it? It just kind of fills in all of the rest of the blanks. So again, those are the 2 main assignments that you're going to be doing for this particular module. And again, I think it's the most practical of the 5 modules that you do because it's giving you the opportunity to really put into practice what you've been learning. So I think that's it for module 4. Remember, there's 3 weeks in this module because it probably is the heaviest of them. And then we'll be getting into our final module in a couple of weeks. So have fun with these assignments. Again, I just can't stress enough, make it practical. I just don't want it to be an assignment that you're just completing because it needs to be done. I want it to be an assignment that you really feel like, wow, I could take this into my classroom and I am ready to do it right now because I have everything in place. Nothing is better than going for an interview and having a principal or a director ask you to describe a lesson that you would teach. And this is where you pull out an assignment like this because you've already done it. And you have all of the background information to be able to defend why you would do it with that particular age group. So, as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Enjoy finishing up your hours. Hopefully you're getting close to being done, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help. So I will see you in Module 5.